The scene was dead anyway. A music scene lives, a music scene dies. The stories, however, are immortal. The scene was dead anyway is a look into the lives, communities and music scenes that helped shape an entire generation. Welcome to The Scene Was Dead Anyway. I'm your host, Rick Walland. This is episode number 9, and today I'm joined by my good pal, Nat Mason, aka Stuart Pearce. Welcome to the show, Nat Mason, aka Stuart Pearce. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Rick. Good to see your face again, man.
Good to see your face, man. You're looking great. Dressed up for the occasion. So tell me a bit about yourself. Give us a little, who is Nat Mason? What do you do? What kind of stuff do you play? What's your forte?
I'm Nat Mason. I'm 30 years old. I've been playing saxophone for nearly 20 years. That's taken me through various different musical kind of forms over the years. I also had keyboard lessons for a bit. And then I taught myself like bass, playing along to Motown records, and taught myself guitar from playing folk music. So I've had like a pretty wide history when it comes to like getting into music.
Yeah.
I've played a few different things.
Yeah.
Currently, my big obsession is synthesizers. I don't know if you could hear that.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
Excellent. I've been kind of buying a lot of old synths and like shifting them and like never kind of owning for much longer than a few months.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just inspiring me to do like a lot of different things, and then I get bored quickly, so I'll move on to another one.
So you grew up in... See, I'm not totally sure about this. Did you grow up in Hucknall? You were born and raised in Hucknall?
Not necessarily. So I was brought up in a village called Bestwood Village, as made famous by D.H. Lawrence in one of his novels, I think Sons and Lovers. It's just a small mining village. There was one shop, and if I ever wanted to go and do something fun, I'd come to Hucknall. It was about, I don't know, 25, 30-minute walk there and back, pretty much 5 nights a week when I was a teenager. And then I ended up moving to Manchester to go to uni. And then I spent some time there. Then I moved to the Netherlands. And then after saying all my life I would never ever move back to Nottingham, I didn't even move back to Nottingham. I moved back to Hucknall. And that's not to do it down. Like, you know, I love this place. But like, I did not expect it at the time.
So let's go back to your earlier life. So when did you start listening to music, and who were your sort of idols and inspirations early on?
Well, I think the first CD I ever bought was the Grease soundtrack when I was 7, because I think it was the 20th anniversary of Grease. That's pretty important if you're gonna get a gauge on that. No, it's not. I remember first really getting into the music of like Minor Threat and hardcore punk when I was about 12. But like this was all
Really?
due to the like early internet. And you know, like when you'd have forums where you don't
Yeah.
really know, you don't see any pictures of anybody or anything, like, you know, it's just completely fucking kind of, you know, separate people like bonding over the internet. But like, I don't know, I found out about Minor Threat, Rites of Spring, and like I got into all of that kind of stuff. Thought I was straight edge for a bit. Nah.
Then you downed a bottle of Bells or something, and that was the end of that.
Oh, there's a few stories about me down in Bells and not fit for the air.
That's another podcast.
Yeah. So I remember getting into them, but like my parents always listened to music. Like We had a videotape that Dad taped off the telly of Yellow Submarine, the Beatles animation film. I must have worn that out, man. I bet I watched it like 600 times over the fucking years. Like,
I think Beatles were an big influence for a lot of people, weren't they? Like, maybe
like
for our
especially like as a
generation and
child, obviously the Beatles are great, but like the Beatles with really bright, in your face colours and animation style that
oh
looks like
yeah.
nothing else. Like, it just really kind of, got me thinking about music and how much I like it and enjoy it and stuff. Um, when I took up saxophone, I actually took up saxophone because I was really into ska music. I've not listened to ska in a very long time, but
So
like,
so initially you were into it, but now you detest it.
I wouldn't say detest, but like, it's a bit irritating to listen to.
It's not my cup
All
of
that
tea. Yeah,
jolliness
it's
and
not my
stuff.
cup of tea, and it's not your cup of tea by the looks of it.
Yeah. Um. So that was like your Less Than Jake and Real Big Fish and all of that stuff. But
Yeah.
my mum got a list of saxophone teachers because I was like, I tried the drums, like didn't stick with it. Tried guitar lessons, didn't stick with it. So I said to Mum, I love saxophones. I'm a ska man. I'm gonna play the saxophone. Buy me a saxophone, please.
Yeah.
And bless her, she did. But I didn't have a teacher at the time, and they didn't do it at school or anything. Um, so my mum my mum was a teacher at the time, and she was asking around, and like she got this list of like saxophone teachers in Nottingham, and I honestly, there was a list of like 20 names, and I just picked the one that sounded the weirdest because it was Jan Kopinski, and I'd never heard a Polish name like Kopinski before.
Wait a minute.
And I,
Wait. Is this back in? Where's this now? We're talking. What year was
this is in
this?
Bestwood Village, like 2001.
And well, this is Jan Kapinski. Who wasn't he? He was a tutor at Salford.
Yeah, he's the reason I went to Salford.
Oh, I didn't know this. Wow. Okay. Brain.
So like,
Wow.
well, so you know who Jan Kopinski is,
Yeah, I
like
didn't
not
know that he
necessarily
was your
everybody.
tutor when you
Like,
were.
basically, he was this mad, crazy Polish British guy who's into really out there free jazz and improvisation, and it's fucking mad. But basically, like, he was my first and only saxophone teacher from the age of 11 until I finished uni because he still taught at uni.
Wow, I didn't know that he was like. So he was living around there, I guess. Or is he from like he was just living around there and
Yeah,
he was teaching?
yeah, he lives not too far from here, about 5 6 miles.
Wow, there you go. So I mean, that does lead us to the later on about why you decided to move to Manchester, and that explains a lot. Then, so
I've never
Jan,
lived in Manchester, mate.
no, well, okay,
I've
Salford.
lived
Sorry,
7 years in Salford and about
Salford.
9 months in Oldham, but never Manchester.
Yeah, but you spent obviously you spent a lot of time in Manchester because you're so
Absolutely, I fucking
close to.
love that place, man.
So about Jan then, so you were having lessons early on. So you said about 2001. So you would have
Yeah,
been.
so basically, like for the first year, it was me learning the rudiments. Like how to blow and get a noise like properly the same each time. And then once I'd learned like a few scales, um, a couple of like silly songs, the Pink Panther or fucking like Flintstones theme tune or something. Like it got me into improvising. So we'd have like CDs, like you'd be able to buy this book of sheet music with a CD at the back, and that's got the backing tracks on. And like you can play along. There's a nice head melody to play, and then there's like a space for improvisation. So like basically after about a year of learning the rudiments, he just started like letting me off the leash and just like, come on, let's make some noise, and like let's see where you can put these scales into practice, and like start playing with a lot more feeling. And I've not really looked back from there, to be honest.
So how old would you have been? This is what, like 19 years ago. So
So I started in
wow,
2001. Um,
sorry, 20 years ago. I completely forgot it's 2021. Like we lost a year last year. That's So yeah, sorry. Carry on.
Where next?
So you must have been, yeah. How old would roughly you would have been?
I was 11 when I
11.
took up saxophone.
Yeah.
Start my lessons with Jan. Eventually, I went through and I did an A level in music. It's all right. I learned how to write a Bach chorale, which has made me able to like write good, um, like string quartets or like moving kind of harmonies and stuff. If you want like a nice rhythmic backing on strings or horns or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got a bit of
Um,
music theory
oh yeah, I know
down.
my shit when it comes to music theory. Like, I think it's important to know because like if you don't know your theory, I don't know how do you put it. It's like you you might get things right, like 4 times out of 20, like just pure good luck. But like if you actually know like where you're headed and like the way that you get there in terms of a melody line or a set chords,
Hmm.
cadences. Uh, I don't know. I'd recommend everybody learn music theory if you want to be a serious musician.
Obviously, would have helped you massively when you applied for university. But what about so a bit getting into your mid-teens?
Mm.
Were you playing in any bands early on, 15,
Oh
16
yes,
years old?
mate.
Tell me about
I
that.
think I started my first band when I was either like 12 or 13 with my cousin Josh. Um, what were we called? I think like Squanky Jello. We were called. We were like really fucking, stupid punk, like rubbish. I was playing either bass or guitar. Um,
Bet you're having a fucking great time though. Bet you just like,
yeah, just silly songs. Like we did one where I'd bang on a cowbell and the other guy would chuck out like fucking what they call Milky Ways to the crowd and shit. I don't know. We weren't really taking it seriously.
yeah.
But like we started because Notts County Council had this wonderful service called 11th session, and basically every Saturday morning from like 10 till I don't know about like 2 in the afternoon, like they'd open this school, the Brunt School in Mansfield, and it was a music school, and there was loads of instruments there. There was like they paid for teachers to come in and run like several different sessions.
Oh, nice. That's
Like the
great.
best bit was if you could set up a drum kit and an amplifier, like you could just like start a band and rehearse in like this school classroom somewhere
Oh,
in
wicked.
the middle of
Yeah.
Mansfield. Um, so that eventually evolved into like taking shit seriously. We started playing mostly covers. Um, Stuff I was listening to at the time, like MC5, Patti Smith. I think we tried a New York Dolls song. Um, then eventually, I think I got into like Northern Soul, and I was like, I really want to play some Northern Soul songs. So the guitarist quit because he was like proper punk. I'm a punk with a mohawk kind of guy.
Yeah, yeah. Old school. Traditionalist.
But that was always like guitar, and like it got to a point where I kind of like resented the saxophone a bit. It wasn't particularly a cool instrument to play when you were at school.
Mm.
Like all the guys played like drums and guitar, they're kind of sexy instruments, but like a saxophone, I don't know, it just felt a bit dorky at the time.
Yeah, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Um, so I did A level music, as I said, played like a jazz set towards the end of it for like my final performance. I've listened to it back, like it wasn't very good to be honest. I tried like playing one Ornette Coleman song, which is just bass, saxophone, and drums. So by the nature of not having like a chordal instrument there, like I thought, okay, this is an excuse to play like free jazz and like start exploring different tonalities, like different kind of rhythmic phrasing, different melodies, harmonies, and stuff. But like it just sounded like a kind of shit. which which since I've learned how to do that kind of squawking kind of shit, like that's the stuff that's got me lots of like gigs and bands.
Well, later on in your life, it proved to be valuable
Mm.
skill. Did you go to any start going to shows and that and playing some gigs then in
Yeah, I
Bestwood
played my first.
Village and around there?
Mansfield had a venue, the Town Mill it were called, not been open for years. Um, we used to get some bands come that were all right play there. We played like as part of this 11th session, I think. Like at the end of the year, they did like a showcase or something like that. I don't know, but I remember playing there. In fact, for our first ever gig, me and my cousin, first ever gig we ever played, our drummer couldn't make it and didn't let us know until the day. So like we met this guy called, I think it was Daryl, like just in the crowd, and I got talking to him. I was like, "Can you play drums?"
That's great.
So, like the songs were shambolic anyway, so like we figured it would just like it made perfect sense.
And how did it go?
Oh, we were awful, proper ratchet, man.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, I didn't play too many gigs. We had a Clipston Miners Welfare. I played one of my first gigs there. That was pretty cool. Um, it was a big hall. Like you could easily fit about, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 people in there. But like there wasn't that many. There was like about fucking 50.
Yeah, yeah. So a bit later, I can't remember when did you actually move up north, further north anyway, to Salford?
2008.
2008.
Finished my A levels in the summer of 2008, and then I moved up in September
And so it
to
was
Salford.
Jan, your teacher,
Mhm.
saxophone teacher. He basically said, "Yeah, this course is great." I mean, what did he say?
He,
How did he sell it
he
to you?
just said that like it's a good popular course, music. Um, he teaches there still, and at the time when you apply for uni, I was what like 17. Like all I cared about was like just music, the bands I was listening to, and like I had a book called "Please Kill Me." And it's like the tales of CBGBs and all the punk
Oh yeah,
scene from like well, it started with like MC5 and Stooges, and then it goes all the way up to like the fucking mid 80s or whatever. Anyway, it was cool. I was into all of that kind of shit.
yeah.
Um, so I moved up to Manchester. I had a room at what was it, John Lester? No, Eddie Coleman Court, and I could touch the walls with like both arms,
So
no
that
matter
was like
where I
the
was in my room.
one of the
It
student
was like a fucking
accommodation.
horrible L shape. Oh, it was so shit, man.
Yeah,
I felt like a monk living in a fucking cell.
one of the many luxurious student accommodations provided for students during their studies at the University of Salford. So yes, you did this famous course that all my guests seem to have done as well. Popular music
Or
and
at least
recording.
tried.
Yeah. So go on, let's hear it. How's it for you then?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I bloody love uni. I met some of my best
I want to go
mates.
back.
Uh, like I'd literally just gone straight from school, college to university.
No gap, just straight
I'd
through.
only ever lived in one house in Bestwood Village, and then all of a sudden I'm in like not quite like the city centre, but like you know close enough to the city centre of Manchester that I could walk it if needs be,
Yeah.
and
So,
living with a load of people that I've never met before.
so it was a how was that for you initially? Pretty intense.
Uh, I've I met one of my best mates on the first day, Bob. Like, I still see him, talk to him every now and then. That's pretty cool. Um, I've met lots of people on my course. don't talk to many of them now, but like,
Mm.
you know, that's okay. Like, that's absolutely
Uh,
fine. Um, yeah,
yeah.
I was sold by Mum saw in the Daily Mirror that Johnny Marr was being made a visiting professor at Salford Uni for the popular music course, and like that was just before I started, so I was figuring like, great, we're gonna have like weekly lectures from fucking Johnny Marr. Like, you know, I wasn't a huge Smiths fan, but like fucking, I realised they were a great fucking band, and they ended up living on fucking Coronation Street where they filmed that video where they're all on the bikes.
And obviously
Um,
the famous picture as well in front of the
in the
Salford
lads'
Lads
club.
Club. Yeah.
Yes, mate. Um,
So how did you feel in your first sort of year, like when you're living there and kind of the course and yeah, obviously you've met.
for 3 months, I felt like completely overwhelmed, um, which is something I've done like in lots of times when I've been put in a new situation. Like I tend to get overwhelmed and like fucking anxious and stuff.
Mm.
Um, but after I like, so I think, do you remember doing musicology?
Hmm. Yeah.
I remember going into a musicology lesson, um, and it was just, he gave you like fucking loads of reading to do. It was all about like philosophers and fucking stuff that I'd never heard about or never cared about. And then like you had to write all of these papers and do like a test at the end of term one. And I just thought like, I am not getting this. What the fuck is going on? This is crazy. We had to buy this like horrible orange textbook.
I
Um,
think most people struggled with that side of the course, like the
what? But
academic
here's the
side.
thing. Like I just remember like fucking writing a lot of notes and like actually doing revision for the first time in my life, and I ended up getting 100% on the test.
Oh, it was you. You were the 100% guy.
Yes, mate.
Everyone used to talk about you like, oh, this guy got 100%. I was like, how did he swing that? How can you get 100% on anything? Do you know what I mean? It's
And,
like,
and and basically since then, like I fucking loved it. I've loved like looking into theory, looking into philosophy. The real academic study of music. Like that's been a huge
so for
interest.
those who don't know, what is musicology? How would you describe it? Um,
Uh, the academic study, and then really long, boring essays written about music.
yeah. So like things like semiotics and ideological state apparatus. And
Um, so what I did for my dissertation in the end was the westernization of Persian classical music, because in our library we had lots of um, what would be called like ethnomusicology, like academic texts about people who've been into certain cultures and like explored how culture is manifest through the music of that particular culture.
yeah.
Um, I just thought my tutor's never ever gonna have had a paper written about Persian classical music, so like that's got to give me brownie points. Ended up getting like a first for it. I did fucking really well and stuff. I haven't listened to Persian classical music since, not in the slightest.
I love it, man. So we talked a little bit about one of the tutors. I don't mind naming him, Tim France, and you had a little story. You told me what something that happened, a little kind of,
Oh
I guess,
yeah.
coming together with him, which he had many with a lot of people.
I think this was another thing that kind of like you know was contributing to that anxiety. This was like within one of the first couple of weeks. Um, we used to have like music theory lessons with everybody in, everyone who's on the course, or like half the course. I don't know. And I don't know. It was at the start of the session, and he was talking off about something, and he mentioned the Beatles, and like, I think somebody like Scuffed or whatever. Everyone's fucking cocky at that age. Like, but he was like, talking, who likes the Beatles, and then he looked at me and like said, "What do you think of the Beatles' first album?" And bear in mind, my dad is a Beatles fanatic. Like, I've already watched fucking Yellow Submarine 600 odd times. But, like, Dad's got every single album catalogued, every single LP, EP, 7-inch, all, like, first editions catalogued, fucking stored away nicely. We've had the Beatles around me all my life. My dad even looked like Paul McCartney on the cover of Let It Be. And it's called Paul. About
There
it.
you go.
But the first album, it's just a load of like second string covers, like done in a Mersey beat style. Like it's not particularly innovative. Like I love like Sergeant Pepper's era and Revolver and like the Yellow Submarine soundtrack. Like that's my kind of Beatles. If we're really going, I just said like I think it's a bit rubbish. Like I've a bit unoriginal, uninspired. Like it just looked at me and, in the most condescending tone, said, "Oh, well, you're never going to get anywhere with that attitude, are you?" And, I was devastated, like, and a bit stunned, even though I tried to, like, fucking bite my lip and, like, "Oh, I'm proud, fuck you."
Yeah.
Like, I soon realised that, like, I'd chosen, was it Pathway A, the, like, doing performing as opposed to doing any recording.
Session musicianship. Yeah.
Um, I was a saxophone player. He was on like the person who was going to be grading me because he played saxophone. So it wasn't going to be any of the other like performance tutors who could grade me.
Oh yeah.
I just realised at that point, like, this is going to be difficult. I'm not sure, like, I've got the chops that he's wanting.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
unless it's Steely Dan, he does not give a shit. And I fucking hate Steely Dan with an absolute passion.
He actually has a band called like a tribute band, doesn't he, or a cover band, or whatever you want to call it, called
Nearly
Neely Dan.
Dan. And all of it, just like in case he does ever listen to this, I don't bear him any ill will or anything.
No, we don't
Like,
bear you any ill will, Tim. You tried your
I'd
best.
happily have a pint with you and catch up if you ever want to, Tim Prant. But like, that was the point. That was like the trigger that made me realize like I'm not really going to be like a professional performing musician. Like I can sense it. Like you're gonna have to play on cruise ships, playing the same shit songs every 3 nights of the week. And I
Yeah.
know
Well.
like you've done the function band. I know like Tom's been on the
Well. Yeah. I mean. He
cruise
talks
ships and
about
stuff.
that, how it becomes like really soul destroying. Like he was getting really fed up. Like after a couple of months of it, playing
And
to
like I
same
was
songs
never going to
over and
become
just
like a jazz session musician or anything. I can't be asked to practice that much. I used to practice like an hour a day, like back in the day. But like if you want to be serious, if you want to be John Coltrane or fucking like any of these legends of music, you're gonna have to train fucking I don't know 8 hours a day. Never take the fucking saxophone out your gob.
yeah.
I didn't have time for that. Like I was doing other things.
I'm not going to
Drank
the.
a lot. Drank a lot at uni.
I do remember he used to say to me, used to say to us, practice 3 hours a day. You must practice 3 hours a day. That is the bare minimum. And like I did take it on board, and it made me a much better drummer. And yeah, he had his way of doing things, and he's a talented musician, and I just feel
Oh
like
shit! Yeah, the guy's
sometimes,
fucking got amazing skill at the
yeah, he
saxophone,
is,
but
he
he's
is,
playing music that I have absolutely zero interest or joy from.
yeah, but I feel like he was, yeah, I don't want to start slagging off and all that, but it felt like he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and you
I don't
know,
know about that. I think he just liked what he liked, and like he could get over like not liking the particular music, like if it was really, really, really technically good. but I'm not that kind of player. Not sloppy, but like I'm a bit out there.
Yeah, it just feels like you need to be more accommodating if you're going to be a tutor on a popular music course, and not because it felt like he was very rigid in what he considered to be good music, or proficient music, But this is the problem with art in a kind of university setting, isn't it? It's like, how do you objectively assess an art form? How do you do it? You can't do it because art is
That's a bit
subjective.
above my pay grade, mate.
Yeah. So I mean, other than that, tell me, what did you enjoy about it? Let's sell this course to
What did
let's
I
sell this
enjoy?
course, guys.
I got to
You
meet
know,
like some incredible friends,
same,
um,
same. Yeah,
including your good self.
yeah.
We met through there. Um, I got to play in lots of bands. I got to meet loads of people just from being in Manchester and Salford that I would have otherwise never met. Again, some like friends for life. Um, to some cheap pubs. When I used to live in High Broughton, and we had a pub at the back of our garden, and it was like an urban cooperative owned by the local community, so it was like £2 a pint.
Oh, nice.
That
So
was
when is
amazing.
this around the time that you joined? This is where you met David Jackson, um,
Yeah, shout out to my man, Big Dave.
Big Dave. So
I met him.
his band Salford Media City is this is you joined up and
Yeah, I met him in like 2012, or maybe the end of 2011. No, sorry, 2009. 2009, second year of uni. Like Dave used to invite us over to his flats. Now, if you're on like the main street by the universities in Salford, you'll be able to see his flats because it's one of them like big tower blocks that are there.
yeah,
Um,
sort of next to Islington Mill, just to the
yeah,
left a
next
bit.
to the Islington Mill.
Yeah.
But like we'd turn up and just like sit in his living room at like 12 o'clock on a Sunday. There'd be like six of us. We had my mate Phil, who was just playing like a snare drum, and we had like a contact mic on a lamp that I just kind of like thwack a bit. Dave would play a bit of guitar. I'd play saxophone. Um, Sadie would play bass, and what's his name? Bookers would play like guitar, and we'd just make a racket for like fucking about 4 hours. We like got no end of complaints, and after about 2 months, we decided like let's start rehearsing in like an actual studio. Um, so we got a room at what was it called, Brunswick Mill?
Yeah,
Is that a thing? Brunswick
Brunswick
Mill.
Mill. Let's see. It
So
was called EXR, but now I think it's called something else. But yeah, it's a huge mill up in Manchester, sort of
Ancoats way.
Ancoats. It's used by other businesses, but there's a big rehearsal room space in there, and
Yeah, and that was great fun. Like it was a pretty big room, so the band just kind of like grew and grew and grew. Like it was a very fluid lineup kind of at the time. Like there'd always be Dave and Sadie, and I feel like I was like the just below them in terms of fucking hierarchy and shit. But like we had like a pool of three or four guitarists that we'd like pick from for whatever gig. Um, everybody played percussion. Um, we went through a few different like iterations of like not having a real drum kit before settling on let's actually have a real drum kit. Also have lots of other people, some just like banging like a floor tom and playing it with maracas and shit. Um, but yeah, like we were a noisy bunch. There wasn't much like progression in the songs. They'd usually be kind of loop based. I say like loop, not like on a
so is
sampler
it
or something. Like
improvised
just
or
a
you?
band looping over one riff for quite a
Oh,
long
okay, yeah.
time.
I guess a bit like the Fall, how they'd have like it
Well,
was kind of
yeah,
a bit of a drone, like a
me mate Graham came to see us, who used to be in 808 State, and you know, he's just like, that's blown me away a bit. It was like hearing two different lineups of the Fall from two different decades playing on at the same time.
obviously the
And
Fall are
I
probably.
fucking hated the Fall at the time.
Oh
Like,
really? Oh, that's interesting.
it's like I hadn't really listened to him much, to be honest.
Yeah,
It took me to leave Manchester before I actually like discovered him properly.
to appreciate the stuff.
Yeah.
So overall, what was your? I mean, what was? How was it being in the band and like how many how many gigs did you play and any
Could you
standout shows?
imagine being one of two drivers in like an 8 or 9 piece band?
Right. Okay. Heavy work.
Man, you were always there at the end doing the loadout, or if it were a local gig, like I could go back the next day with a hangover and go and collect up, lift a drum kit up several flights of stairs and then down again. Um, they were good times. I really enjoyed that band. Yeah, I've got no like particularly bad memories.
Is there any
Still
shows that
friends
stand
with some
out?
of the guys.
Any
What?
any shows that stand out that you can remember that you were like that was fucking awesome.
I remember doing bonfire night, and I'm not gonna say who, and it wasn't me, but like some people were on acid playing at this house party in Chorlton, Didsbury, I don't know, somewhere like that, and like that was pretty like wild. I was really hammered. Um, but like there was nearly electrocutions on stage and fucking I, I don't know, crazy night.
But it was crazy in a kind of good way, chaotic.
I don't know if we sounded good. I could never hear what we were playing, to be honest. It was hard enough to hear myself. Like a big wall of throbbing sound.
Yeah, just a sonic assault.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess you were in that band from 2009 to 2014. You
Hmm.
mostly playing sax and a bit later, so a bit after this, you did actually end up joining a Sun Ra tribute band.
Yes, mate.
This would be your
That's.
next project after Salford Media City.
I'd say that's probably my most successful project that I've ever been a part of musically. We ended up getting played on Six Music at the wrong speed somehow. I think it was Gideon Coe. He ended up like encoding the WAV in a different way or something, or I don't know.
So what did it
Either
speed it
way,
up or
like
slow it down?
no, it slowed it down by about like 15 BPM.
Oh,
Like it sounded fucking weird, and it was going out live on Six Music. We didn't sound like
you're like,
this.
this is our moment, and some guys like, you had one job.
But yeah, that was a fantastic band with some fucking brilliant musicians.
So what the
Who I've
name
met
of the
along the
band?
way.
I always forget it because it's quite long.
The part-time, pardon me,
Not that one.
the part-time heliocentric Cosmo drama after school club brackets Saturn Lancashire brackets.
Awesome. Yeah, I did actually manage to. I think I got to one or two shows, and it was a visual and sonic experience.
Yeah, that came about because fantastic musician from Manchester, Paddy Steer, who
Paddy
you
Steer,
should
yeah.
all see live when live music happens again.
Maybe I can get him
Uh,
on the show. We'll see.
yeah, so like he knew me from seeing Salford Media City a couple of times. He's a bit older than me. He must be in his like late 40s, 50s now. Um, but he'd been asked for this like big one night only show in Liverpool, Casimir. It was just going to be like a night of Sun Ra tributes, like like regular bands from across the northwest, like doing a couple of Sun Ra covers or like something inspired by Sun Ra. What
Yeah.
Paddy like misheard and thought was, I've got to start a full Sun Ra tribute band with like fucking 8 horns, a couple of drummers, costumes, and everything. And he did, and it was fucking amazing.
It was, man.
Because
It was really good.
um, because I was drafted like quite early on, and I could read music a bit better than the other guy, Howard. I was tasked with like kind of orchestrating, like the horn section. So like I was still like quite fresh out of uni. I still had like the skills. I did composition, so I know how to like notate, and that kind of stuff. So like that helped me kind of ingratiate into everybody because I was a bit intimidated. Like first of all, to be working with Paddy, he's like a fucking octopus on stage. He can play the drums, he can play the electric fucking glockenspiel, he can play a synthesizer with his foot. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it was already a bit intimidating, and then like we practiced at this guy's house called Graham, like, and I didn't find out till like after that, like he was the guy from 808 State, who were like, fucking mad acid house band from the 80s or whatever. But like he was just a really lovely kind of normal like bloke with fairly nice house.
Yeah.
Like space where we could practice in his house with a drum kit and everything. We spent a lot of time like drinking tea and learning Sun Ra songs, and then ended up like. I think the first gig we had like 15 people on stage as part of the band, and then the last gig, which we recorded as part of like a Howard, one of the other saxophone players, is like a documentary maker, so he did like a documentary about being a Sun Ra tribute band with all of us, and for part of it we did like a big final performance. Can't remember where, somewhere in central Manchester, like the Sun. I'm thinking, I don't know.
So this is somewhere we can check it out. Is it on YouTube or
Oh
something?
yeah, I think it's called The Language of Ra.
Language of Ra. I'll check it out.
It's up there on YouTube
people who are
somewhere.
listening, watching, check it out. Yeah. I got to see you at it was called, what was that venue called in Shude Hill? I think it's closed now. It was a little bit
that's the one I'm thinking of.
Wonder something or
The Wonder Inn.
the Wonder Inn,
Wonder
yeah.
Inn.
Really cool. It was a little bit like Islington Mill, kind of that.
We spent a lot of time like decorating that night as well, like putting up some papier-mâché like fucking Saturns and stuff.
So you were in that band for about a year, 2013, 2014.
Yeah, it feels like we played like quite a few gigs in that time. To say like we were such a big band, we must have played about like 8 or 9, maybe 10 gigs. That were all good. But then I applied for uni because I was incredibly depressed. It's just.
I think it was around the time that you actually was living with me for about a year in Salford.
I think it was longer than that, man. I think it was like 2 years.
Was it? It was basically like a building site for though. I felt so guilty, man. I was
Well,
like,
it didn't
hell.
start off that way. I had quite a nice big bedroom at one point, and then like half of it.
I was like, nah, I'm gonna shove you in this fucking box.
Bathroom.
Oh well, man, yeah.
I got into recording when we lived together. So, like, we did the popular music and recording degree. I did fuck all recording as part of that course, and like had absolutely no knowledge about a sound card, what it is, like why you need a what's it called? Not a grounded connection, a balanced connection. Like none of that shit. Didn't know anything, but I'd been listening to the Basement tapes by Bob Dylan quite a lot, and we just had a basement done out. So I thought, I'm going to create my own basement tapes in the basement. And
Yeah,
I've
that's right.
taught myself how to record music, and like basically that's been a really important skill that I developed. And has
In
really
that basement.
helped me through some shit times. Yeah.
in the basement in our house in Weast, Salford.
But I used to just go down there all night and just make weird noises. Did like a did a it was like a song by Salford Media City, but with the words of a Nepali folk song that I learned when I went out and lived in Nepal for a bit, with about like 30 tracks of various guitars overdubbed, various drums that I just played myself. Like I was doing some mad stuff at that time. I've kind of toned down a bit and stuck to one kind of genre a bit more recently.
So this is you applied for a course in the Netherlands. Oh well, did you apply for a few places?
No, only uni I applied for. They did a master's in American Studies, and there was a course, well, like a module on the Beat Generation, and at the time, like I loved all things, Jack Kerouac and Neil Cassidy and that kind of stuff. So I just thought, fuck it, I've got nothing to lose. I've been like pretty upset. I think I took some time off work for a bit, depression, anxiety, and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I just applied for it on a whim, and I got a response within a couple of weeks, just like, "Yep, yeah, we'd love to have you."
Amazing.
And I looked into it. Tuition's pretty cheap over there. It was like €1,700. Sadly, my granddad had passed away like not long before, so family came into a bit of money. So that funded me for a year. Went over to a city called Nijmegen. It's not a particularly big city at all, but I'd say particularly beautiful place to live. I was once again in student halls, but this time 24 and living with a load of 18-year-olds. But again, I did make some fantastic friends. Marine, who was in the room next to me, like he's a cool guy. My two best friends, probably while I was living over there, were a British guy called Webby, who used to call me Uncle Webb because I don't know, late 50s or so. He's been living over there for ages, but he's from Rotherham, and we met in the Irish pub, and he'd always buy me a drink whenever I was there. So he was my best mate, and Rob, like he's another guy about the same age. Like, we just spent a lot of time drinking. When I wasn't reading books, when I wasn't writing essays, I was drinking, and mostly at the Irish bar, and annoying quite a lot of people.
Yeah, I actually managed to get over there, didn't I, for like one weekend to come and see you, and it was I really enjoyed it. Yes, nice little city, and I'd never been to
Place to live.
the Netherlands before, so it was a nice experience. I think we went to a show, didn't we, in some warehouse? It was like some weird, like almost like a rave, but like it was a bit like Islington Mill as well. Do you remember that? You took me to some like little warehouse. We cycled.
Was it Brable?
Maybe I can't remember the name of it.
Complex.
And that whole
A lot
weekend
of that year's a blur, to be honest, man.
the whole weekend we were singing a Toto song repeatedly. Do you remember that? We just kept going. We were just doing that the whole weekend, like cycling around Nijmegen. I was like, this is fucking awesome. Yeah, thanks for that, man. It was.
Still got the bike.
Still got it.
Still got me Dutch bike. Brought it home with me.
So how did you find the course and that? Did you enjoy it? And
It's a bit similar to my first year at Salford, to be honest. Like I felt massive imposter syndrome from like the very first lesson. I hadn't studied American studies before. I don't particularly know what it is. Still, like it's so broad and vague. Um, a lot of like the musicology stuff, a lot of very heavy, kind of dense topics, and you were given mounds and mounds of reading to do every week. And I just felt out of my place. I remember going seeing the professor, Professor Hans Buck. He's right cool dude. Really old. Well, not really old, but like he's just retired. Like you could tell he's not too far away from retirement. But like really kind, warm, lovely professor. And he's like, Nat, I know you're finding it difficult, but like just stick it out for at least like this first term, see how it goes. I'm sure you're gonna do fine.
Oh, that's
Anyway,
nice.
I
Yeah.
I found like a few people to be like quite cliquey on the course. I can't speak Dutch. Believe me, I've tried. Like, really fucking tried. But like, it's so similar to English that even if I try and fumble like through a couple of Dutch sentences, people would just reply to me in English because they could tell that like I can't really speak Dutch. So I was never really given the opportunity to listen. But they still kept asking me why I couldn't speak Dutch. That's a whole separate thing. But a couple of people on my course were like quite cliquey, and you know, just simple things like everybody's talking in Dutch, like while you stood outside a classroom or like in a break time, and it's like,
Mm.
man, I'd love to fucking join in with you. All the lessons been taught in English, but I can't. I just can't interact with you, and I don't know if you're doing it like purposely to just because I was a bit bolshy.
Mm.
Um, like quite often some of the lessons that we'd have would be like just an opportunity to debate and argue different points about like a specific topic. We did like foreign policies and foreign relations, different like racial issues, politics, all of these kind of things. And I was coming from like a pretty, I can't say like strict or like orthodox Marxist because I just haven't read enough Marx to like say that I'm a Marxist. But like, coming from that like very left, more left than left of centre
Mm.
kind of viewpoint, and like I got pretty good at it. Like was pretty good at debating, and everybody seemed to have like a kind of more centre left to kind of liberal bias. A couple of guys, like I think they supported Trump or whatever. Like, but he was one of my good mates. Actually, that's besides the point. I never truly felt like what's the opposite of out of place. I never really truly felt included.
Mm.
Um, like on my course in most of like what I'd consider my friendship groups. There was a community around a local arts cafe that I'd put on like weird sound arts one night and like installations or exhibitions, like arts place. But like you could volunteer there, and if you volunteered there, you'd like get a couple of free beers or cheap beers. So like I just thought it was like an excuse to like see lots of crazy weird art. Like one time there was this Danish guy and a Parisian girl, and like they just put a tape player on, stripped naked, started painting themselves white, and then like running around drawing things on the floor. Like that's the kind of like level of stuff. About four people watching,
Yeah.
including me from the bar. Um, that was the kind of stuff that like they'd put on, and I figured like if a place is going to put that kind of stuff on, I want to meet the people who are putting it on because they're
Yeah.
going to be fucking weirdos like me. But even amongst the weirdos, I never truly felt like because like I'd have all these great conversations about like art and aesthetics and like whatever. But then I'd be like, all right, it's 4 o'clock. I've got to get to the pub because I'm watching Forest. They're on the telly tonight, and just talking
That's
to these
funny.
mortified like goths and stuff.
Oh man, that's great. So you graduated, you came back to the UK, and you
Moved
moved
back
back
in with
to
my parents, back to Bestwood Village,
Bestwood
um,
Village. Yep.
and that was tough. I was pretty low. after I came back. I'd been on this high for a year. I hadn't, I wasn't worried particularly about anything apart from work. Like, just get your work in. My granddad died like just after I handed my thesis in. And I was going to see him in the hospital. Like, as soon as I moved back to Bestwood Village, like, mum and dad went on holiday for a few weeks in July, August. While Grandad was dying in the hospital, and basically, like, I was just finishing off my thesis. So it was a case of like, right, go to the hospital, write again, drink a couple of pints before you go to bed, and that was it. Sadly he passed away. And, like, it's fine. Like, but then I graduated, and now I've got an MA. I can put Nathaniel Mason, MA, and I sign like checks or whatever. I don't know. And I had this idea that, like, this means I'm obviously going to get a really good job now. This was just at the time that Jeremy Corbyn was becoming leader of the Labour Party, and I've been a long time member of the Labour Party. My granddad he's like probably my biggest political inspiration. Both my parents were, and Jeremy Corbyn became leader, and I thought, like, oh, there might be a future for me here. Like, I figure, like, now's the time that I get really involved with the Labour Party, with my trade union at the time. I've applied for no end of jobs with the Labour Party. I've never even like had a fucking
Not a sniff.
interview. I've had a few interviews for union jobs, but there's always somebody else with more experience. So that was tough, and I eventually settled for a job working at a college for people with learning disabilities, minimum wage, and first week or second week, either way, I'd not been there long, and one of my colleagues was taking me around to meet a few people from different departments that I've not met before. And I met Joe, and my colleague was like, "This is Joe. He's Union Man." I was like, Union Man. So, like, I'd been reading loads about Labour. I did a couple of essays about, like, a couple of American Labour struggles in Colorado. It's something that's always been around me. I've always been a trade union member. But, like, you could see, like, there was like a glint in my eye when, like, I met him. It's like, union rep. It's like, you look excited. Do you want to become a union rep? So, like, the day I signed up, like, it took about 2 weeks for my union card to get there, and then, like, straight away I signed the papers to become a union rep.
Wow, cool.
So that was for Unison. It's definitely something that's, like, I'd like to think defined, or like helped me define who I am, and the values I hold and the things that I'm prepared to, like, dedicate my time to.
Yeah.
But my God, it got fucking difficult at some point. At one point, I was leading, like, pay negotiations for about 600 members of staff, and, like, all the other union reps were ill or, like, unable to make it, and, like, I was just feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders.
Sounds horrific.
And then there's, like, kind of the day-to-day stuff of being a union rep, like dealing with people who are facing the sack, or going through rounds of redundancies. Like, that's not good. Like, that's sometimes, like, there's very little that you can do, and it's about, like, managing expectations, and that's really disappointing. And I think that shows that, like, the state of labour relations in this country is fucking abysmal. The Tories are planning more attacks on things like the Working Time Directive. They want people to be able to work more than 48 hours a week. Who the fuck wants to work 48 hours a week? It's,
40 hours is already too much, in my opinion.
yeah.
But, yeah,
But yeah,
I think just to interject, like when Corbyn was appointed the leader of the Labour Party, and there was this kind of groundswell. What's the word? Groundswell of huge kind of optimism, hope started to sort of
yeah.
rise up, and for myself
I've
personally
always
as
been
well.
a Labour supporter. I've been a member since 2010, the day after the 2010 election. I joined. Um, but all through Ed Miliband, like I'd defend him, but I never felt inspired by him.
No, no.
I didn't think he was going to like take on the world and put some people in their fucking places. And then all of a sudden, there was this guy who I'd never heard of before.
No, I don't think
Um,
anybody had.
I remember putting a bet on. It was the day after the odds were 500 to 1. It went down to like 36 to 1. But like that's the most money I've ever like made on a bet. I've made like, £100
Yeah.
on Jeremy Corbyn. Um, but like finally there was just like an honest man. An honest man who's not going to bullshit you. He stands for what he believes in, and the media crucified him because they can't ever let that get near power. And I'm very fucking. I've been very nihilistic recently, to be honest. Like the state that the Labour Party's in, I don't know why I bother giving my money to them.
I think a lot of
My
people
friends,
left recently with what's
yeah, my
happened.
friend is standing to be my local councillor for Labour in the upcoming election, so I'll probably like give that a shot and go out and help him. But the Labour Party's had a lot of my time over the past 5 years, and I've been met with lots and lots of disappointments along the way
Yeah.
by people who should know better and do better.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, we could really go into that. But this is about Nat Mason, not the state of the politics in the UK. But at the same time, it is important to talk about it because I think that's kind of what I want my podcast to be as well. It's like,
It's been a big part of me for the past 5 years or so. Again, like that really helped me root into living in Hucknall again. Like I hadn't connected with a lot of people for a long time, and I just started going to like Labour Party meetings. But like in Hucknall, we had a really healthy core of like socialists and like young socialists in particular. So like I've made some good friends from there. We would like to go for a pint after a meeting on a Wednesday night. Back when you could go to the pub, that was. Um, but yeah, that's really helped me like become part of the community and stuff in Hucknall.
yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I've lived here for a few years now. I might have to move closer to the city at some point when things are open again.
So, in terms of going back to musically, um, you joined a band called Slumb Party, or was the band formed? We all kind of
Yeah,
formed together at the same time, or
they'd already done a couple of gigs before me. Um, just as a four-piece, like guitar, bass, drums, and vocals. Oh God, how did it go? So my best friend from Nottingham originally, he's been living in Newcastle since 2008, called Bernard. Um, he told me about this venue in Nottingham called JT Saw, and he said my mate's band is playing there. I'd met her before, but he told me like you should go down and see it. From there, I met a guy called Alex Hale at the gig. He was just like talking to me and friendly, and within like 6 months, I was playing saxophone in his wedding band that he was the singer of. So just from one friend saying I should go to one place, I've met like another great friend. But also, the guy who runs JT Saw is a guy called Phil, and he plays guitar in Slumb Party, and is a great production audio engineer guy. JT Saw's got an amazing studio. He's just had it all refurbed over lockdown. Sleaford Mods have recorded the past couple of records there. I think that just got to #1.
Nice.
But anyway, like me, Phil, and Alex were all playing in this wedding band together. And Phil obviously realised that I do kind of know how to play the saxophone, but I do like to be a bit like a more wild and squawky free jazz kind of when I play. And he just decided, let's put two and two together. My band with this weird squawky saxophone. And it ended up working out quite well.
And what you describe the music as like kind of post-punk, party pop.
I'd just say post-punk.
Post-punk.
It's post-punk.
Who were your kind of influences, if you were to name some bands or artists?
So like obvious comparisons would be like we had a bit of Minutemen about us. We had a bit of I can't think. What's he called? James Chance and the Contortions, or is it James White? James Black? I don't know. Stuff like Pigbag. I don't know. Kind of like on the funky end. We a bit Gang of Four.
Yeah. There's a bit. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, definitely.
Like it was quite erratic. Like we didn't really deal with like verse chorus kind of stuff. It'd be like quite jumpy, like scratchy, big leaps from one thing to another, but also like quite funky at the same time. We had a really good bass player, Dom.
Yeah. So how was it overall? Then tell me a bit about
Well, I
the
thought
band.
I was going to be given like free reign, but like at the start because they knew that I was like quite good at music and like I knew theory and stuff. Like we'd spend a lot of time like really working out what my parts were, and it felt a bit like, you know, music by committee, like everything that I was doing at the time. But like, eventually I ended up getting it, and like, we all started learning what we were all good at and what we could play. Um, so I think we came up with some really interesting music. I still put it on every now and then. I've got the records.
And you've released how many? Was it? You've done 2 albums.
2 albums, a 7-inch EP, and a cassette.
And did you? I know I managed to catch you at Sounds from the Other City, so that's the music festival in Salford,
Mm.
annual music festival. I saw you at that in 2018. Yeah, and
I
yeah, I
was
mean,
sick about like 3 hours before that. Like,
you were sick, vomiting.
yeah, I was so fucking like dehydrated and hungover from the night before.
So were you touring at that point? Was that like a little tour, like part of that?
Uh, I think we'd got it booked into like a weekend thing.
Oh,
Like we
okay,
had
yeah,
the night before in Leeds or something.
yeah. And so you're no longer part of Slum Party because that's pretty much coming up to 2020, 2021. We're getting
Yeah, I quit in not last. Yeah, I think last summer. No, summer
2019.
2019,
Yeah,
possibly. Um, we were recording the second album, and
yeah,
I just wasn't enjoying it as much. Like, nothing personal against the people I was playing with, but like, it just wasn't the kind of music that I wanted to do, and like everything that I was suggesting, it felt to me like it just wasn't being taken on board or like wasn't being considered.
yeah,
And that's fine. Like that's five people in a room, like all trying to shape something. And like I know I like a bit more on the oddball and kind of weird side of things. But
yeah, yeah. And
you
so
know,
now you're doing your own kind of I guess self-titled project. Stuart Pearce. You wanna...
Well, Stuart Pearce started while I was in Slumb Party. Basically, I bought a synthesizer for the first time in, I don't know, like 2016 or something. And I discovered that like you can program them to like play themselves. So that was a bit of a revelation because like I've been struggling like all while I was living in the Netherlands. I never really like played music, didn't play in a band or anything. Um, and then when I first moved home, like it was a while before like I started meeting people and like meeting Phil and Alex and stuff and playing with them. Um, so when I realised that like I could get a band and they would all do exactly what I tell them to do and never play out of time because you can get a drum machine and that's better than a drummer, and you can get another synthesizer and that's better than any keyboard player because it'll all play in time together at one button. And I thought there's something in this. So so the first gig, oh, it was like a mountain of keyboards. I had like an old 70s transistor organ with another big like digital synthesizer on top of that. You had like I drilled some holes in the back of this old organ so I could put up like a stand that my mate who's a joiner made for me so I could put another synthesizer on top of it. Then I had a table at the side of me with a drum machine, one with a sampler and one with a polyphonic synthesizer. And like that was all. I'd written like 6 songs and I was just going to play all the instruments all by myself and, whatever fucking beat that the rhythm machine's playing. And I thought it was better than a lot of other people thought. But it got me started, didn't it?
Yeah.
From that, there's a guy who used to live around the corner from me called Joe who started playing bass with me because I used to go to school with his brother. His brother was in my year. And he just said like my brother's doing music at college and that, like, why don't you invite him round? I thought, yeah, fair enough. Like, so I just invited him round and he started playing bass and he was also like listening to what I told him to do. Like just like the synthesizer, I could say, could you just play this, and he would.
That's great.
So I thought, I'm having you. You're a chief. So he still plays this. He's a great bassist.
Great.
And it's kind of developed from there. Like it'd be a couple of different iterations. Like I'd always be chopping and changing gear, like different drum machines, different synthesizers, that kind of thing. So like each gig has been different. Sometimes Joe played guitar, mostly bass. We've got a drummer now, my mate Craig. Like I auditioned him on synthesizer. He played his first gig on guitar, and now he's a drummer.
The
So I like
carousel
to
of
and then we've got Adam, the guy who put on probably like my most successful gig, doing Stuart Pearce. Like he put us on, but he turns out he plays guitar, um, and we've got very similar like kind of philosophies, interests, tastes. So like it's been going well, and then all of a sudden, lockdown happened,
yes.
and
Yes.
we've not been able to rehearse, and that's really rubbish, if you ask me.
So just to digress slightly, Stuart Pearce, for those who don't know, is a legendary Nottingham Forest and other clubs football player.
England's greatest left back.
Yeah, so you are an avid Nottingham Forest fan supporter, and he's one of your idols.
I would say long-suffering
Long-suffering.
Forest supporter.
Yeah.
I first named myself Stuart Pearce because I was working at a school, primary school, and then one of the kids like said, "I found you on Facebook." I just thought, well, that's weird. I'm definitely not going to use my real name on Facebook anymore. So it became Stuart Pearce, just because I like Stuart Pearce. I thought he was pretty cool. And then just before I moved to the Netherlands, actually, my friend Manoli was putting a gig on, he asked me to perform saxophone while he like strapped some Wii remotes to me and like that edited some parameters while I was moving. It was crazy shit. But he he asked me like what to bill it as because like it was pretty much my last night before I moved to the Netherlands. I think I moved to Nottingham the night before and then to the Netherlands like the day after. So I said Billy as a tribute to Stuart Pearce, and I wrote this lovely like poem. I ain't got it anywhere, but like it were a good football poem. I put some good words in there. Before I started like honking on the saxophone, and we had a drummer playing with us as well as the electronics. But that was billed as a tribute to Stuart Pearce, and since then it's been like it's a pretty good name, isn't it? I might just start calling every bit of music that I do Stuart Pearce from now on. So
Question is,
I'm not
does
sure
Stuart Pearce know that there's a guy playing
I
music under his name?
highly doubt it. We're not at all famous in the slightest. As a band, we've only played one gig, and that was playing 3 cover songs for this annual night in Nottingham called the Christmas Covers.
What songs did you play?
2468 Motorway by the Tom Robinson Band, classic. Totally Wired by The Fall, which is great pretending to be Marquis Smith on stage. And 1999 by Prince.
Lovely. I know 2 of those. 2 out of 3. Yeah.
Which one don't you know?
The first one. Is that shameful?
2, 4, 6, 8, never too late. Me and my radio on through the night. You never heard that?
I can't believe I've not heard it. No, I'm ashamed.
I bet you have.
I probably have. Maybe just
as the closing music for whenever you put this episode up, put 2468 Motorway.
Okay, yeah. I'll play a snip. But see, the issue of playing other people's music is I get into all that copyright bullshit stuff. So it's easier to
say
just.
I wrote it.
Okay, maybe you've got a recording of the cover you did. I can just.
I think someone recorded on a phone. Who knows? Maybe.
So there's one question that I've always been asking all my guests. In your opinion, what do you consider selling out? What is selling out?
Selling out is making money doing stuff that you don't enjoy for money that you don't need.
I like that.
So, I've got absolutely no beef with any musician who struggles for years and years and then ends up getting a song played on, I don't know, fucking T-Mobile advert and like that funds them so they can, finally buy a house or fucking like put the band together and tour again after 30 years. Like absolutely nothing wrong with that. No problem with people who make their money from like just writing advertising music or jingles or anything like that. But it's just there's so much stuff that just doesn't need to be made. Just like when music has been reduced to like pure commodity, collection of signs, nothing signified. Like, just it irritates me. Like, it's like a paint by numbers book of how to write a hit song nowadays.
Yeah, I guess if you were in say you were a huge artist and Amazon came along and said, "We'll offer you this deal, pay you this much, huge chunk of money." In a hypothetical situation,
I've not given any money to Amazon in about 7 or 8 years now, so like they're not going to fucking give me no money neither. Like,
I mean, that's the difficult kind of tricky hypothetical situation. Is like, I mean, you're going to be a different person if you got to the point where you're being, offered a...
I don't get me wrong. If like Sony want to give me loads of money, or fucking I don't know, like EMI or whatever, do they even exist anymore? Absolutely, I'd be fucking well for it. Just not Amazon. I spent
Virgin?
too much time in the fucking labour movement to like capitulate to the grossest extent of fucking crony capitalism.
What about Virgin? Richard
He's a bit
Branson,
of a twat, isn't
yeah, would you turn down a multi-million
I know
dollar
some good
deal?
bands were signed to Virgin back in the day. Well, was it like Sex Pistols and Tubular Bells?
So I just wanted to, I actually have one question from someone called Awkward Arcade on Instagram.
I think I know who that is.
Who is it then?
That's James Med.
James Med. So James Med or Awkward Arcade asked, I understand the wheels go round and round, but what is it that drives that motion?
I don't have an answer to that. But can I give you another something that's a bit similar to that?
Go for it.
David Lynch was talking about like directing and creating art, and he said he had a donut in his hand. It says, "Look at the donut. Don't look at the hole inside." So just look at the donut. Look for all the good stuff, right? Don't look for the void that's in the middle.
I like it. What's your, apart from obviously waiting for this pandemic to finish or pass, what are your kind of goals and ambitions for the next 5-10 years? What do you want to do musically,
To be
politically?
honest, like I don't anticipate I'm going to be fucking headlining Rock City anytime soon. I just like making stuff. Like if I've got a bunch of people who I get on with, they like my ideas and they're happy to like help me play my music that I write. More than happy if we don't make another penny from it.
Yeah.
Um, I've only ever lost money from being a musician. Saxophones are expensive, and gigs don't pay.
Yeah.
Well, like gigs don't pay if you play the type of music that I want to play. So like, it's always been a hobby. Again, Tim France knocked it out of me, like from being any thoughts of being a professional musician. So I just do it for
Crush your hopes,
enjoyment, man.
dreams.
If if I feel like I'm expressing myself in some way, if I feel like I'm exploring things that interest me, like I don't care if there's 10 or 20 people and I'm only getting, petrol money home.
Mm. How have you been, I guess, coping with the current situation, and what have you been up to during the lockdowns and restrictions due to COVID?
Oh, I was drinking a lot.
Yeah.
I think we all were. That's kind of toned down. I've been doing the dry January thing. Uh, just trying to keep busy in the evenings. I've bought a PS4 recently, so that's taken up a lot of my time. Um, been recording various bits and bobs of music. We've kind of got the set down to one point where, like, if I just keep adding songs and songs and songs, like, we're still like learning like a few of them. So like, I don't want to fucking overload people. I don't know, man. I'm just waiting for it to be over and I can see my mates and hug people again. I can't wait for that.
Have a pint at pub.
Oh, mate, I'm so
The
ready
the
for it.
the great popular British pastime. Really important part of our culture, I think. Well, thanks so much, Nat. It's been great.
Quite alright, mate. Lovely to see you again.
Love to see you, and yeah, good luck with the project, the Stuart Pearce project, and
Yeah, man.
hopefully,
Hopefully, as soon as things like open up, we're going to be able to practice a bit more. The idea was to kind of put a record out as soon as possible, but
watch the
you know,
space, Stuart Pearce.
these days.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks very much. shall see you
Cool.
later.
I really need a piss, so I'm
All
gonna
right.
like.
See you later, man. Thanks.
Yeah, mate.